You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. In the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, his personal journal, he writes this to himself. And this personal journal was never meant to be seen by anybody else. So you know this was truly a reminder to himself, a reminder of his mortality, and a reminder that at any moment you could die. And imagine at this moment right now, you died. Would you be okay with what you're doing, what you're thinking about, or what you're saying? You know, Marcus Aurelius lived in Rome during a plague, so he would have been faced with death at every corner. He would have seen people on the streets dead. He would have heard of friends dead. I think he ended up burying like 7 of his children. You know, Marcus Aurelius was bombarded by death throughout his life. And he still needed to give himself reminders that one day you will die. And you don't know when that day will be. And you don't know when that will come. So let that determine what you do, say, and think at this very moment. Because you never know, this moment could be your last. You know, people fall asleep and never wake up. Young people, old people, everyone in between. People get in car accidents. You know, crazy things happen, and you never know when you may die. So, as Marcus Aurelius says, let that determine what you do, say, and think. And as I was saying about Marcus being around death, and him still having to meditate on the fact that he will die, to me is very powerful. Because we live in a day and age, at least in the United States, where death is not, you know, it's not that seen, if you will. You know, you just don't see people dead on the side of the street every day. You know, I personally have never seen a dead person just sitting there lifeless. So, you know, it's a lost practice, I believe, to meditate on your mortality, because we never see it. You know, you never have to think about it. You think of death as something in the future, something far off, something you don't have to worry about right now. But I challenge you to think of death as something that is happening at this very moment, something that is occurring constantly. You know, since this video has started, I don't know how long it has been, but I've died like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And I can't get that back. It's gone. It is now given to death. It is now dead time. I cannot do anything with it. And the future is also dead time, because the future is not certain. So the only thing that is alive is the present moment. So you need to realize that, and realize that any moment could be your last. And you need to meditate on the fact that one day you will die. And I believe doing that will help you cut out a lot of unnecessary actions and useless things that you do in your life. You know, when you do something, and instead of looking at it however you may look at it, but look at it as, you know, 2 hours I just gave to death. Am I okay with that? Was I doing something I'm okay with doing? Was I doing something that if I died, I would have been okay with? You know, whether that be helping other people, or, you know, working on yourself, you know, true self improvement, true self-love, not, you know, playing video games and watching TV. I don't believe that is self-love or self-improvement, but, you know, true, good, quality time given to death. You know, I bet a lot of the time you've spent, you would be ashamed and regretted if that day happened to be your last. You know, if a day happened to be your last day where you spent hours on social media, hours scrolling and eating and watching TV, is that really how you want to live your last day? But yet that is what we do. And you never know when it may be your last day. So when you have a day like that, just remind yourself that this could have been your last day. And I mean, you are your own person, and you can take that as you want. But for me, I personally would not want my last day to be spent in things of that nature, or in selfish acts. You know, I have a thing I like to tell myself, it helps me kind of guide me and make some decisions, is never make a decision solely based on money. You know, if I'm going to make a decision and I look into it on why I want to make this decision, if the sole reason is money, I have a rule where I will not do it. Because nothing should be done for the sole purpose of paper, of artificial money, of fake money. I mean, not fake, but you know what I mean. It's just a piece of paper, you know. It's just, you know, currency is a new thing. You know, in the terms of, you know, humans, I mean, money and things of that nature are pretty new in the grand scheme of things. And, you know, people were happy before there was, you know, immense wealth. And even when there was immense wealth, there was people who didn't have it who were happy. So that is obviously not the answer to a fulfilling, happy, meaningful life. So that was a little side note, but that's just something I like to do. But, you know, just ask yourself in every single moment, if this was the last time you were doing this, would you be happy with what you're doing? If this was the last thought you had, would it be a virtuous thought? Would you be happy to say that the last thought you had was a noble one? Or the last thing you said was to encourage someone, was being kind, not putting someone down and gossiping? You know, these are questions you have to ask yourself, and things you need to become aware to, because everyone is going to die. And I believe meditating on your mortality is important, because when I was younger, I used to put it off so much so when I was a kid, I had immense anxiety about death. You know, my stomach would hurt so much, and I would eat a bunch of Tums, and it would hurt my stomach even more. And it was all of the thought of death, and I couldn't sleep at night. I've spent hours awake at night as a kid because of death. And instead of using this as a catapult to live a better life, I suppressed it and convinced myself I was immortal. I truly did. I truly convinced myself that medicine would advance in such a way I would never die. And I don't think that helped my life. You know, I can say I truly convinced myself, and I truly don't think my time was better spent thinking that I was immortal. I've spent the best times and made the most use of my time under the impression of my mortality and the fact that I will die, and the fact that this thing isn't forever. At least this earthly life is not forever. Depending on what you believe on, believe in, and eternal life is forever. But this earthly life is not forever. So remember that, and remember, memento mori. Remember your mortality. At any moment, it may be your last. So let that determine what you do, say, and think.